In Russia, there are many U.S. citizens in jail and prison. The official number is not known. We don't even know all their names. And tonight, though, we're going to fix that, at least for one family whose son, the parents say, has been wrongfully detained, imprisoned since 2016.
An American musician joined a band, and now he's a prisoner in Russia. The entire United States knows about Paul Whelan, Brittany Griner, and Trevor Reed. So why not this man? Do you recognize him? My bet, probably not. I didn't until now. He was arrested in 2016, but I did not learn about him until recently when his family reached out to me. This is Jimmy Wilgus. He's a self-taught musician, a producer, and a family man. In 2010, Jimmy met a guitarist from Belarus, and together they formed the band Wicked Monkey. Wicked Monkey's success in Eastern Europe eventually took the band to Russia. While on tour in Moscow, Jimmy fell in love with a Russian woman, and the two married in 2014. Jimmy settled into life in Russia and partnered with local musicians and began building a state-of-the-art recording studio in central Moscow. But all changed on November 7th, 2016. That's when Jimmy Wilgus was suddenly arrested in Moscow. Russian police taking Jimmy into custody, demanding he sign their documents written in Russian and telling him that once signed, he could go home. Those Russian-language documents turned out to be a confession statement. The crime Russian police say he committed was allegedly exposing himself to a minor while entering the elevator of his friend's apartment after taking out the trash. Wilgus claims that the bathrobe that he was wearing that morning accidentally opened up. Russian authorities disagreed that it was accidental. In his closed-door trial, Jimmy was forced to accept a state-assigned Russian defense lawyer, and neither Jimmy nor his wife nor a U.S. Embassy representative was allowed inside the courtroom. Jimmy was convicted, sentenced to 12.5 years in a Russian prison. Jimmy is now 54 years old and has spent the past 6 years in the notorious Mordovia Penal Colony, IK-17, a high-security prison 8 hours south of Moscow. That is where prisoners live years of hard labor. During a recent interview on the American Grit podcast, former Russian captive Trevor Reed recalled meeting Wilgus in prison.
While I was there, I did meet one other American named James Wilgus. And to be honest with you, I think he's probably also being wrongfully detained. Once I met him, I realized that the number of official hostages and wrongfully detained that the United States has on their big list, it's probably missing there a lot of Americans who are actually wrongfully detained, but they haven't made it to that list yet.
Paul Whelan knows Jimmy too. In fact, they are cellmates with beds next to each other. Since his imprisonment, Jimmy has had limited contact with his family. According to his parents, Jimmy has suffered physically, including a stroke, spinal issues, hypertension, chronic heart failure, chronic headaches, dizziness, and potential liver failure. The following is a voice message from Jimmy.
I got a serious problem, I really do. My head hurts all the time. I still have not received an MRI, which we began asking for in August, which legally I had a right to get in August. Any complaints could only come back to hurt me. And my situation now is that I absolutely do not want to go back to Hospital Colony 21. They only hurt me there, and now they're even slandering me there. Honestly, it's ridiculous that American citizens are still in prison here, when the youngest and healthiest of us, namely Trevor Reed and Brittany Griner, were prioritized and rescued because they were the winners of some shameless popularity contest. That's all I have to say. Thank you for listening, and please don't let us die in a Russian prison, okay? Bye-bye.
The American lawyer for the Wilgus family, Lawrence Lustberg, joins me. He's also the director of the Fellowship for Public Interest in Constitutional Law at Gibbons Law Firm in New Jersey. Good evening, sir. And we had just heard Jimmy's condition, but I'm curious a little bit about the family, because this is, I talked to so many family members who have relatives or children in foreign prisons. How are the parents?
You can only imagine, Greta, how difficult this is for them. It's not just the frustration that anybody who's innocent of a crime and is charged with one feels. It's his family, which knows that he didn't do anything wrong, has so little contact with him, and feels completely helpless. I think it's a great credit to them that you're even dealing with this tonight, because it's because of their persistence, their tenacity, that they've been able to bring some attention to this matter. Because, as you said in the piece, you know, more famous people, the Brittany Griners and Paul Whelans of the world, get all the attention. And poor Jimmy, nobody's ever heard of him, and there he sits, languishing in prison and really potentially dying.
Well, what I regret is that, you know, he's been there 6 years. He's got all these physical ailments, and yet I'm just learning about it now. And, you know, and so, you know, and you hear about all the other Americans, that there's so many. It's like, you know, where is the media dropped the ball? Our State Department? I mean, I know the family has been trying apparently to get attention, but, you know, who's dropping the ball on this?
You know, it's a combination. You know, the higher profile individuals like a Brittany Griner or Paul Whelan, people who are accused of espionage, and now we have the Wall Street Journal reporter, Mr. Gershkovich. I mean, those are the people who get the attention. The Jimmy Wilguses of the world, who are just living in Russia and suddenly get snapped up for doing absolutely nothing wrong, get ignored. And that's a problem that exists here in the United States, and it exists in Russia as well, is that people who are higher profile get all the attention. Look, you know, there's been a lot of discussion over the, yeah.
Are you getting any movement out of the State Department or the White House to help?
I know that they have been in touch with the Senate Foreign Relations Committee that's working on it. I'm aware that there's efforts being made. But what I hear the last couple of days is that there's potentially a prison deal for Mr. Gershkovich, and yet for Jimmy, we're not hearing that he is going to be part of that deal. And I just really hope that as people begin to focus on this, they look at all of these hostages, which is what they are, as equals, as all people that our government should care about and work hard to bring home.
Larry Lustberg, thank you. And if we can help any more, you know, I'm here every single night. Anything I can do to help, and you know, to help pound on the State Department or anybody else, you know, let us know. And if you know of other Americans that, you know, that we can help as well. Thank you very much, and good luck, sir.
It's my pleasure. Thanks for having me on, Greta.
Thanks, sir.